Brother, if you're listening to this, you're probably a Gen X man, born roughly 1965 to 1980, who's carried that pack in your pocket for decades. You know the ritual, the flick of the lighter, the first drag that cuts through the noise of a long day, the way it felt like a quiet rebellion back when we were young and the world seemed wide open. But somewhere along the line, that old friend became a chain. This is not just another quit smoking lecture. This is a psychological journey into your own mind. How we Gen X guys think, feel, resist, and finally break free, informed by real experiences across America, Europe, and Asia. I'm speaking directly to that part of you that's tired of the internal argument. The voice that says, "I've got this under control," while another whispers, "You know this is costing you." Let's walk through the mental landscape together. No judgment, just understanding. Because quitting isn't about white-knuckling it forever. It's about rewiring how your mind works. DACE5 6HDL.handle.net, the inner world of the Gen X smoker. Think back. For many of us, smoking started as freedom, a way to feel tough, calm, connected. In our heads, it became tied to everything: unwinding after work, bonding with the guys, handling the pressure of building careers and families while the world moved faster than our dad's generation ever imagined. Cognitively, your brain built strong associations. The thought, "I need a smoke," isn't just a craving. It's an automatic response wired deep. When stress hits, that familiar midlife mix of mortgage, aging parents, kids' needs, and your own body starting to push back, the mind reaches for the quickest relief it knows. It feels like a mental shortcut. Smoke equals calm, but over time, that shortcut becomes a trap. You start avoiding the discomfort of facing feelings head-on. This is what psychologists call experiential avoidance. Regional nuances matter. In America, many Gen X men tied smoking to the hustle of corporate life, long commutes, or post-work unwind in a culture that increasingly stigmatized it over decades, creating strong cognitive dissonance around health and family. In Europe, for example, UK, Germany, Spain, smoking was often more socially normalized in pubs, cafes, or work breaks, with varying policy pressures. Gen X cohorts grew up with higher baseline rates but faced shifting norms around public health. In Asia, for example, China, Japan, Vietnam, among immigrants, it's deeply linked to masculinity, social bonding, like guanxi in Chinese context, and stress relief in high-pressure environments. Many men view it as a social ritual rather than just a personal habit, with lower stigma for men compared to women. And then comes the dissonance. Deep down, you know the health risks. You've seen friends cough their way through stories or worse, yet the mind rationalizes, "I've smoked this long and I'm fine. It's my only vice. I'll cut back tomorrow." These thoughts aren't weakness. They're the mind's way of reducing inner conflict. We hate holding two opposing ideas. I value my health and family versus I keep doing this. The psychological stages of awakening change doesn't start with action. It starts in the quiet moments of contemplation. You might catch yourself staring at your kid or grandkid and think, "I want to be around for this." Or you feel that chest tightness and the thought hits, "This could be it." Psychologically, this is a shift from pre-contemplation, where denial keeps things comfortable, to contemplation, where ambivalence rules. This tug of war is normal. Your mind is weighing your identity. Who am I without this crutch? For Gen X men, smoking often tied into our sense of self-reliance and toughness. Quitting can feel like admitting defeat at first. But here's the psychological truth. Real strength is choosing discomfort now for peace later. Cross-regional turning points. America, health scares, family pressure, or workplace wellness pushes, with higher quit success in places like the West or among higher-income educated men. Europe, policy changes, e.g. taxes, bans, and comorbidities often tip the scale. Studies across countries like Greece, Hungary, Poland show health concerns and being a role model for kids as key motivators. Asia, fatherhood, immigration/acculturation. For example, Chinese-Canadian men prompted by moving to Canada or becoming a dad. Or life resets like work abroad. Unassisted quitting is common due to self-reliance values. Many men describe a turning point, a health scare, a loved one's words, or simply accumulated regret that tips the mental scale. Rewiring your thinking, the cognitive shift. Here's where the real psychological work begins. Your thoughts aren't facts, they're habits. Cognitive behavioral approaches teach us to catch those automatic thoughts and challenge them gently but firmly. You feel the urge rising. The mind says, just one to take the edge off. Pause, ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Urge surfing, riding the feeling with curiosity instead of fear, works across cultures. Reframe the narrative. Instead of I'm depriving myself, try I'm reclaiming my energy, my lungs, my money, my example for my kids. For us Gen X guys, tie it to masculinity in a new way. Quitting isn't giving up, it's fighting for control. Cultural lenses, Western, America, Europe, often frames quitting as personal achievement, competition, or physical financial gains, supportive competition among men. Asian contexts, self-reliance and willpower are emphasized. Acculturation, for example, in the US, can boost quit rates for some men by shifting norms, while guanxi/social harmony influences rationalization. Facing the emotional storm withdrawal isn't just physical, it's psychological. Irritability, low mood, that restless mind. Old emotions you've been smoking away come flooding back. Build flexibility. Learn to observe thoughts like clouds passing. Map personal triggers. Replace the ritual with something that feeds the same need. Deep breathing, a walk, calling a buddy. Fathers often describe a profound shift. The baby or grandkid becomes a new anchor. In Asia, protecting family from secondhand smoke and father identity play big roles. In the West, it's more about presence and legacy. The long road, maintenance, and identity change. Early days are raw, but months in, something deeper happens. Your identity shifts from smoker trying to quit to man who doesn't smoke. Relapse? It's not failure, it's data. Most men who succeed have several attempts behind them. Over time, you notice the psychological gains: sharper focus, steadier emotions, deeper sleep, more presence with loved ones. Remember to click subscribe button. In conclusion, Reclaiming the Self, a comprehensive guide to long-term smoking cessation. The decision to stop smoking is rarely a singular event. It is a profound, iterative psychological evolution. For many, particularly men navigating the midlife transition, Gen Xers who have weathered the economic turbulence and rapid technological shifts of the last few decades, the journey is as much about mental reclamation as it is about physical health. You are not merely quitting a habit. You are dismantling a crutch that has, for years, masked stressors, punctuated boredom, and perhaps even served as a misplaced marker of identity. As we examine the global landscape of smoking cessation, it becomes clear that while the physiological addiction is universal, the path to sustained maintenance is deeply shaped by cultural context, self-perception, and the strategic application of psychological tools. The global mosaic, regional insights into maintenance. The challenge of maintaining cessation varies across geographies, influenced by societal expectations, healthcare accessibility, and cultural attitudes toward health autonomy. The Western context, education, age, and the autonomy paradox. In North America and Europe, we observe a distinct phenomenon: higher quit ratios among older and more highly educated cohorts. This demographic often possesses the resources and cognitive framework to pursue cessation, yet they frequently fall into the trap of unassisted quitting, the belief that willpower alone is the only valid path to success. Data consistently suggests that while many attempt to quit on their own, the highest rates of long-term success are found in those who bridge the gap between self-reliance and supported intervention. Studies, particularly those originating from Spain with longitudinal follow-ups spanning 5 years, highlight that while the initial act of quitting is a personal choice, the maintenance of that choice is significantly fortified by cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and the strategic use of evidence-based nicotine replacement therapies, patches, gums. The takeaway for the Western man is clear. Accessing support is not an admission of weakness. It is an intelligent optimization of your recovery process. The Asian context, navigating cultural stoicism. Across many Asian regions, the barriers to cessation are often rooted in cultural nuances surrounding self-reliance and family duty. In some settings, there is a pervasive stoicism that can delay formal help seeking, as the act of reaching out for professional support may be perceived as an unnecessary external intervention. However, we are witnessing a significant cultural shift. Immigration, globalization, and progressive public health policies are reshaping the discourse. In these regions, maintenance is increasingly successful when framed within the context of collective well-being and long-term vitality. The shared understanding model, where men support one another through common goals, is proving to be an exceptionally effective antidote to the isolation that often triggers relapse. The Gen X perspective, the power of self-compassion. For the Gen X man, the psychological landscape is complex. Many are in a stage of life where they are reflecting on the decades that have passed. A common resonant refrain among those who successfully quit is, "I wish I'd done this sooner, but I'm glad I'm doing it now." This shift from regret to action is the cornerstone of successful maintenance. Regret is a dead end. It keeps you looking backward, tethered to the could-haves. Self-compassion, however, is dynamic. It acknowledges that the choices you made in your 20s and 30s were born of the circumstances of that era. By accepting the past without judgment, you free up the mental bandwidth required for present-day focus. You are not mourning the years lost. You are investing in the decades that remain. Practical psychological tools for long-term freedom. To translate this understanding into daily practice, you need a toolkit that addresses both the physiological craving and the underlying psychological narrative. Number 1. The thought journal. Externalizing the internal smoking often acts as a cognitive filter. By keeping a thought journal, you move the whispers of the addiction from your head onto paper. When you feel a craving, document the situation. What time is it? Who are you with? What is the specific stressor? You will quickly identify patterns. Once identified, these triggers lose their power. They become data points you can manage rather than emotional imperatives you must obey. Number 2. Mindful pauses. Interrupting the autopilot. The cigarette break is, ironically, a forced meditative pause. When you quit, you lose that structural break. You must replace it. Practice mindful pauses, deliberate 60-second intervals where you simply breathe, observe your surroundings, and check in with your body. By reclaiming these pauses, you reassert control over your nervous system without the need for chemical intervention. Number 3. The mental why list. Motivation is a depletable resource. When the initial drive to quit wanes, your why must be ready. This list should be specific and visceral. The desire to keep up with your children, the objective to lower your resting heart rate, the freedom of not being tethered to a smoking area at an airport or a dinner party. Keep this list in your pocket or your phone. Read it when the impulse is at its peak. Number 4. Strategic peer support. Whether you frame it as healthy competition, the Western approach, or shared responsibility, the Asian approach, connection is a force multiplier. Find a peer who is either going through the journey with you or who has already achieved what you seek. Being able to say, "I am struggling right now," to another man who understands the specific weight of that struggle is often the difference between a slip and a relapse. Number 5. Professional CBT, building a strategic defense. If self-directed strategies are not sufficient, seek out CBT. It is not therapy in the sense of delving into your childhood. It is a tactical manual for the brain. It teaches you how to identify cognitive distortions, the lies your brain tells you to justify a cigarette, and replace them with objective, constructive thoughts. Closing reflections. The transformation. Brother, quitting smoking is one of the most profound psychological transformations a man can undertake. We often talk about the health benefits, the lungs, the heart, the blood pressure, but the internal shift is more significant. You are essentially dismantling a shadow identity. For years, you have used nicotine as an emotional regulator. By removing it, you are forcing yourself to develop internal emotional regulation skills. The cravings will test you. The old neural pathways, forged over years of repetition, will whisper for attention. But here is the secret. Every time you choose not to smoke in the face of a trigger, you are physically strengthening new neural pathways. You are literally rewiring your brain for freedom. You have already survived the pressures of our generation, the economic shifts, the cultural upheavals, the demands of family life in an increasingly complex world. You have demonstrated resilience in every other facet of your existence. Now it is time to direct that same hardened resilience inward. The freedom on the other side is not just the absence of smoke, it is the presence of clarity. It is the ability to face a stressful situation without needing a physical crutch. It is the realization that you are the captain of your own cognitive ship. Take one small step today, reflect on the past, breathe in the present, and make the choice for your future. You are not alone in this battle, and the version of yourself waiting on the other side is worthy of every uncomfortable moment it takes to get there. A final thought. As you continue your journey, consider this. What is the single most significant trigger you face during a typical week? And how can you proactively adjust your environment to neutralize it before the next impulse arises? How do you successfully quit the smoking attitude as a Gen X man? Why do Gen X men smoke? What others ways they can quit from it? I'm waiting at the comment section. Have a wonderful day, love, from Rotten Stillness.